I thought this would be easy. That's how every bad decision in my life starts. Not with confidence. Confidence implies research, but with that quiet, lazy thought that just says, how hard could this be? That's not bravery. That's ignorance stretching its legs. I don't even realize it at the time. I'm calm. I'm relaxed. I'm walking into a situation the same way you walk into a room when you think there's a chair behind you, and you just sit. It always begins with someone asking a simple question, not a complicated one, not a dangerous one. Just something innocent like, can you handle this? And I say yes immediately. I don't pause. I don't ask follow-up questions. Because in my mind, follow-up questions are for people who don't know what they're doing. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know that yet, so I say yes with confidence I absolutely have not earned. I think part of the problem is I picture myself as a capable person. I don't know where that image came from. There's no evidence, no awards, no witnesses. But in my head, I'm someone who figures things out. I've never actually seen that version of me in action, but I assume he exists somewhere like Bigfoot. Other people claim they've seen him. I haven't. So I agree to do the thing. And for about 30 seconds, everything is fine. That's the most dangerous part. That's when your brain starts celebrating early. You think, see, this is going great. That's when life quietly locks the door behind you. Because the moment I feel comfortable is the moment a detail appears that I was not prepared for. There's always a detail. It's never small. It's the kind of detail that changes the entire situation, but somehow everyone else knew about it except me. Now I'm standing there pretending I still understand what's happening. That's my specialty. I don't ask questions. I nod. I repeat the last thing someone said, hoping it sounds like agreement. I've learned that if you repeat something confidently, people assume you're on board. They don't realize you're just buying time like a human loading screen. Inside my head, it's chaos. I'm trying to solve the problem, rewind time, and rewrite my personality all at once. I'm thinking, okay, if I just stay calm, maybe this will sort itself out. It never does. Situations don't sort themselves out around me. They wait, they watch, they get worse. And here's the part that really gets me. I still believe it might turn around. Even when it's clearly not going well, I think maybe the easy part is coming. That's optimism without qualifications. That's hope with no plan. That's me assuming the universe will eventually say, you know what, this guy's trying. People start looking at me differently. Not angry, just concerned. That's worse. Anger feels temporary. Concern feels permanent. Concern feels like they're already telling the story about you later. I can feel my reputation changing in real time, and I'm powerless to stop it because I committed too early, and now I'm too embarrassed to back out. At this point, I realized the mistake wasn't doing the thing. The mistake was believing I was the kind of person who could. That's the real shock. It's not that it's hard. It's that I don't have the skills I assumed were included with adulthood. Nobody told me adulthood was mostly guessing. I thought there was a meeting I missed where they explained how everything works. So now I'm improvising badly. I'm making decisions based on vibes. I'm hoping confidence will carry me the rest of the way. Confidence does not carry you. Confidence pushes you off a cliff and tells you to figure it out on the way down. Right when I think I've hit the lowest point, when I'm already planning how I'll explain this later, like it was always part of the plan, something else happens. Something unexpected. something that makes me realize this situation isn't done with me yet. Because just when I think I've reached the part where it can't possibly get more complicated, someone says one sentence and suddenly I understand that this was never going to be easy, and whatever I thought easy meant I was wrong about that too. I start out calm, and that's usually the warning sign. When I feel calm walking into something I've never done before, that means my brain has already decided it understands the situation without checking any facts. I don't feel nervous. I don't feel excited. I feel comfortable. And comfort is dangerous because comfort means I've already skipped past the part where normal people ask questions. I'm not confident because I'm capable. I'm confident because nothing bad has happened yet. And for some reason, I treat that like proof. In my head, I'm a person who handles things. I don't know when I decided that, but once the thought is there, it feels official. I assume there's a version of me that knows how to do this. I assume I'm that version today. I've never met him, but I trust him completely. That trust is unearned, but it's very strong. I don't need instructions because instructions are for people who admit they don't know what's going on. I'm already past that stage mentally. What makes it worse is that everyone else seems relaxed too, which I take as confirmation instead of coincidence. Nobody's panicking, so I think, great, that means this must be simple. I never consider the possibility that everyone else knows something I don't. I take silence as approval. I take normal behavior as encouragement. I take my own lack of fear as preparation. There's also a small moment where I feel proud of myself, and that's when I know I'm in trouble. Pride shows up early. Before effort, I think, look at me stepping up. That thought has never ended well. It's the kind of thought you have right before you realize you misunderstood the entire situation. But I don't realize that yet. At this point, I'm still relaxed, still upright, still convinced this will be quick, painless, handled by a version of me that I keep assuming exists. It always starts with a question that seems harmless, simple to matter. Someone asks, "Can you handle this?" And in my head, that's where the problem begins. I say yes immediately, not because I know what I'm doing, but because saying no would require admitting I might not be capable, and that thought is exhausting. So I agree before thinking, before analyzing, before imagining what could go wrong. I just nod and say the words, and for a moment, everything feels like it's under control. That's the hook. The audience knows what's coming before I do. The comedy lives in that instant yes. It's small, almost casual, but it's the kind of decision that has exponential consequences. Saying yes, like opening a door without looking, thinking the other side is empty, when in reality the room is full of obstacles and the floor might be missing. Can almost feel the audience leaning forward because they've all done the same thing, said yes too fast, jumped into a situation and immediately regretted it, but at first they didn't know why. As I move forward, the weight of that yes becomes obvious in the little things. The instructions I don't have, the people assuming I know what's next, the equipment I don't understand, all of it stacks up quietly. Patiently waiting for the moment, I realized this wasn't simple. And by then, backing out would be impossible without embarrassment. And they're smart, so I continue nodding, pretending like I have it under control. There's also a strange mix of hope and panic inside that first yes. I think maybe I can figure it out. Maybe it's actually easy. Maybe the world isn't going to notice that I'm unprepared. But the universe doesn't care about hope. The first yes becomes the anchor for everything that follows. That one word sets the stage, hooks the audience, and silently promises chaos, even though at the time it feels innocent, casual, completely normal. At first, nothing seems wrong. I move through the task with the same confidence I started with, still convinced that saying yes was the right choice. Then, slowly, the first sign of trouble appears. Not dramatic, not obvious, but just enough to make me pause. Maybe it's a small detail I didn't notice, and they're smart, like an instruction that doesn't make sense or someone giving me a look that says, "You sure about that?" My brain notices it immediately, but I ignore it. I tell myself it's nothing, just a tiny hiccup, nothing that a competent person couldn't handle. That's the hook. The audience already knows this is not nothing, but I'm still pretending it is. The realization comes in pieces, like puzzle pieces scattered across the floor. I see one, another, and slowly the pattern begins to form. But I'm stubborn. I'm still clinging to the idea that this will work out because I said yes, because I've committed, because if I admit confusion now, it feels like failure. The comedy builds in the hesitation, in that awkward space between knowing and accepting, where I start to realize maybe I'm in over my head, but I'm still trying to act like I'm not. Everything begins to feel slightly off. There's smart instructions that seemed clear now don't make sense. People who appeared calm earlier begin moving faster or talking in a way I don't understand. I notice the tiny gaps in my own preparation, the things I overlooked, the assumptions I made without evidence. With each realization, I feel the audience leaning in closer, anticipating the moment when I finally admit the truth. I keep pushing it off because admitting it would mean facing the chaos I've been ignoring. It's that slow, creeping awareness that makes this part of the story addictive. The tension grows not from sudden catastrophe, but from the comedian's delayed recognition of reality. I feel the panic rise, but on the outside, I'm still calm, still nodding, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, the universe will let me get away with it. By the time I realize things are slipping out of control, I've already committed fully to pretending I know what's happening. I can't backtrack, can't admit I'm lost, because that would be embarrassing and also complicated. Complexity is the last thing I want to deal with. So I nod, I smile, I repeat the last thing someone said like it's a perfectly valid answer. It's amazing how much pretending you can get away with if you do it confidently enough. People hear confidence, they don't hear panic. They assume competence where none exists. That's the subtle magic of it. And that's where the comedy lives. Me acting like a person in control while my internal chaos is growing by the second. I find myself improvising explanations I don't actually understand. I use phrases like, right, exactly, we'll handle it that way, even though I have no idea what it is. The words are automatic, a shield against the truth. The audience can feel the tension underneath. They recognize that split between appearance and reality because we've all been there, trapped in a conversation, in a situation, trying to save face while knowing we're lost. That duality makes it relatable. But it also makes it funny because they can see the spiral forming even as I stubbornly refuse to acknowledge it. Sometimes I overcompensate with small actions, moving things around, adjusting, fixing things that don't need fixing, hoping motion will buy me time. I look busy, I sound busy, and the more I act, the more ridiculous it becomes. I laugh at myself silently because I know anyone watching would recognize the absurdity. The hooks come in here because the audience is waiting for me to trip, to say the wrong thing, to misstep. I keep walking on this invisible tightrope, Even when someone gives a hint or tries to clarify, interpret it through the lens of my pretend understanding. I'm nodding again, pretending comprehension, while the gears in my head are spinning faster than ever. Every small misunderstanding compounds the situation. The audience is right there and leaning forward, sensing the collision coming, hooked by the tension between what I show and what I know I don't. Inside, I'm panicking. My brain is moving faster than my body can keep up with. Every detail I miss at the beginning now feels enormous, like tiny snowflakes turning into an avalanche. I can feel my heart rate climbing, but on the outside, I'm calm. I smile politely, nod, I carry on with an air of casual control, because if I show panic, it's like admitting the whole thing is unraveling. Contrast the chaos inside versus the calm outside. That's where the comedy really hits. The audience can feel the tension building in the background, and that tension is what keeps them leaning in, waiting to see how it will finally tip over. I catch myself over-explaining things I don't even understand, unnecessary steps, or making up rules that don't exist. I sound reasonable, maybe even competent, but the absurdity is in the fact that none of it matters because the foundation is already shaky. The humor is in the dissonance. My calm voice paired with my racing thoughts, the desperate hope that appearances will carry me through. Every small success I create in pretending gives the illusion of progress. It's just delaying the inevitable realization that I am wildly unprepared. I start to notice the people around me watching closely, offering subtle cues that I misread completely. Interpret concern as encouragement, confusion as agreement, and every vague look as approval. That misreading fuels more of my improvisation. I keep moving, talking, reacting, but none of it is actually directed at solving the real problem. The audience is aware, watching me make decisions that are completely out of sync with reality, and that awareness is what keeps them hooked. Even as I begin to suspect that my calm exterior is a fragile mask, I can't stop maintaining it. The more I fake confidence, the more ridiculous the situation becomes, and the humor deepens. Each internal panic paired with external composure stretches longer, pulling the audience along, because they know the tension will grow, and they want to see just how far I can go before it all unravels. Smart, just when I think I've reached the worst part, something new appears, a small detail I hadn't noticed before, a comment, a movement, a glance. It's like the universe is tapping me on the shoulder saying, "You didn't think this through." The situation expands quietly at first, almost politely, but every expansion adds layers I'm not prepared for. What felt manageable a minute ago now feels like juggling flaming torches on a tightrope while someone keeps tossing more torches at you. The humor comes from the absurdity of thinking any of this was ever simple. The audience can sense that escalation before I fully process it, which keeps them hooked. I start improvising faster, trying to keep up with each new complication. Each adjustment I make creates another small problem I didn't anticipate. I nod, I speak with certainty, I act like I understand instructions that I clearly don't. And somehow each misstep raises the stakes without me realizing it until it's too late. Every time I think I've caught up, a layer of chaos arrives, like a plot twist in a story where the main character refuses to read the script. The audience is aware of it all, waiting to see how I will respond, or more accurately, fail to respond because they know the tension will only continue to build. The interesting part is how my confidence interacts with the expanding situation. I still pretend to be in control even as I'm scrambling internally. That duality, the calm exterior with an increasingly chaotic interior, is a magnet for engagement. Smart people stay tuned because they want to see the collision of perception and reality. Every little escalation acts as a hook, a subtle reminder that the original assumption, this will be easy, was entirely wrong, and that more complications are inevitable. By the time it feels like I can't possibly keep up, something else appears that twists the situation further. The audience can feel the momentum, the energy, and they stay glued to the story because they want to see how far this spiral will go, how I'll react, what ridiculous turns might come next. Each complication is carefully layered to keep tension and humor high, pulling viewers forward, unable to swipe away. So eventually, after way too much nodding, some improvisation that I'm still proud of, and realizing I was nowhere near prepared, stepped back and admitted to myself that easy is a relative term. Apparently, I live in a different universe than everyone else. And there's smart, the thing I thought would take 5 minutes turned into a full episode of me explaining why I should never volunteer for anything ever again. Yet somehow I survived. People weren't mad, at least not visibly, and I walked away with a story that makes me look slightly smarter than I am, only because nobody can see the panic behind my eyes. I like to think that's how most of life works. You overestimate yourself, underestimate the situation, and somehow make it through while laughing at yourself the whole way.